Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Powerful Man Show. I am your host, Doug Holt, with my co-host, Matt Jennings. Matt, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
I'm doing excellent, man. So excited to have you on. For those that don't know, Matt has come through the program of the activation method, did the Alpha Reset, and graduated on into the Brotherhood. A successful businessman and family man. Matt, just so excited to have you here and just sharing your journey and your wisdom with the other guys. So thanks for being here.
Yeah, it's great to be here. It's always good to have the opportunity to hang out with you guys and hopefully to give back to some other guys. Maybe kind of I've been where they're at. Maybe they can learn something from our conversation.
That'd be great. Well, speaking of where you've been before, obviously I know your story, at least some of it. Let's go back to pre-activation method. Who was that guy?
It was a guy who had in life probably accomplished from in the world's eyes much more than I ever expected to from a business perspective. Um, I didn't go to college. I was just kind of a self-made entrepreneur and found myself, my business has exploded, did very well. And I found myself kind of all of a sudden, some things kind of started crashing down. Just not like the businesses were failing or anything like that, but just some hard times, some things I didn't expect. And some of them were at home, most of them were at work, but work affected home. And I don't know, I just found myself unhappy with who I was. Um, Maybe didn't even really know who I was at that moment. I almost felt like I'd lost myself.
Hmm.
I was always a big hobby guy. I love to the outdoors. I love fishing. I love, boating, hunting, all kinds of things outdoors. And myself, I just stopped doing all that. Um, Basically, I'd like to say I worked all the time, but some of the time I just sat around. I just kind of found myself not enjoying life.
Yeah, and that's a common place. A lot of us guys find ourselves, right? We get, you almost sold a dream that if you work hard, and you achieve these goals, then you're going to be happy. And
Exactly.
and you will,
Way more to it than that. Yeah, it's almost like you almost felt like I was climbing this ladder my whole life. My goal was to get to the top of this wall. It was like this ladder up the side of the wall, and I reached the top of the wall and I looked over it and nothing was there.
yeah.
And it wasn't what I thought it was. And um, yeah, and then there were some challenges that came in to my life, both personally and professionally, that kind of hit me all at once. And um, I was not up for that at the moment. I wasn't strong enough to handle those challenges when they hit, and just kind of slipped into a weird, I call it a funk, right? Like just in this rut, and yeah, and that's when I found you guys, actually, right in that time frame.
Yeah. And then so you joined the activation method. You went through that. I went to your alpha resets where you and I got a chance to connect. We won't give away any things that happened through those programs because it's part of the magic of them. We just had an alpha reset in the UK, happened this last weekend. But for coming out of that, right, coming out of that experience, what changed for you?
I would say everything changed for me. Um, and it started the very first day of the activation method. I was very much at a point in my life where I felt like I was on an island. I didn't feel like I could talk to anyone, you know, and be really like truthful and honest and open. Most all of my friends were involved in my organization, either shareholders, board members, you know, my wife, who is now my best friend. At the time, I felt like if I shared with her some of the things that were going on in the business, that it would scare her and make her insecure. So I didn't want to talk to her about it. But yet she could see and tell something wasn't right with me, and so that caused her to be, looking back, that was not the right way to handle that. Um, and then when I did decide to share it with her, I shared it with her from a very insecure position, I guess you would say. Because I did eventually decide that I needed to share it with her, but when I did, it was kind of in a breakdown kind of thing, which really scared her, right? Um, so yeah, the very first day of the activation method, I'm not going to go into actually like what you guys do, but the very first exercise that you guys put me through, and honestly, just having that ability to unload a little bit to someone who was completely unbiased and didn't know me or wasn't involved in my life or my business in any kind of way was a big moment for me. And that actual exercise really immediately started opening my eyes to some things about myself and some things I'd created within myself that I'd never thought of it that way. And so then I went through the activation method, and I thought, I'm doing pretty good. I've made a lot of progress. Went to the Alpha Reset, not really expecting what I came out of it with, and I felt like that was one of the top 3 or 4 most transformational things that's ever happened in my life. And I came back with a different perspective of life and myself. And most importantly, I came back with a different perspective of myself.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah. It was great to be part of that journey and watch you go through it. Now, would you say, going through the areas, you talked about being a little stuck in a rut in business and personal life, how did things change in the personal life, relationships and things like that? Did things change after you came back from that Alpha Reset?
Oh yeah, absolutely. You want to talk about the personal life part? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Okay, honestly, all of my problems, professionally and personally, were rooted in one problem, which was me.
Surprise!
Surprise, right? And then that problem lied within me, and it was actually my own perception of me, right? And I didn't like myself. I didn't like who I saw in the mirror. I didn't know why. I didn't really understand that at all. And through that process, I figured that out. And I'm very lucky. I have a wife who loves me dearly. I love her dearly. And she stood by me through all the tough times and through my ruts, and the funk that I was in. And so, we saw pretty quick. She saw a difference in me. She saw the old me, right? The me she knew before I went into that rut, and recognized that me almost immediately when I got home.
Yep.
Some guys weren't lucky enough to have a wife who desperately wanted to see that, and it was a little different for different folks, right, that were in the program. But for me, my wife saw that, and so did my kids. And pretty much immediately when I got home, there was a change. Now, obviously, they wanted to see over time a difference, right? And
sure.
And I feel like I've shown them that over time, and it's not always been perfect. I've had my moments, and she has her moments. As far as me and Kelly, my wife's name's Kelly, and she's the greatest woman I've ever met. We're madly in love, and she's my best friend, and everything has been phenomenal, and just keeps getting better and better and better. Honestly, it was that way our whole marriage, other than the couple year rut that I got stuck in, and we got back on track and have been doing great ever since.
Awesome, man. Well, and it's almost like for a lot of guys, we hear the story, and I know it was for me, Matt. It's almost like we forget who we are. We lose ourselves during that time. So we create a different story that we live through that doesn't serve us.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And and it doesn't serve our family well either.
No, not at all. And a lot of us guys, we have this story that I'm going to provide, and I'm providing financially for my family. I'm doing this for my family. Yet we turn around and look, and our family's not happy.
Yeah, and we think it. And I honestly did. I thought that everything I did every day was for my family. And I'm not going to say that was a lie, because that's the way I truly felt. I was doing it for my family. But I didn't realize I was, in an effort to try to help my family, I was kind of self-destructing.
Yeah.
And me and my family. And the reality is, all our families really want is us.
100%.
Nothing more, nothing less. They don't want to fake me. They don't want to overstress me. I kind of had to come to that conclusion. They want me. They want me acting like me, being the me that's the dad that I can be, the husband I can be, that I want to be. And that's truly who I am. And I just reached a point in my life where I was trying to be what everybody else wanted me to be. I was trying to be what I thought for some reason they wanted me to be. And that wasn't me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I discovered at the Alpha Reset. Was the final phase of that discovery, was that, I was everything I'd been looking for.
Imagine that.
The answers to everything I'd been looking for, everything I wanted, was me. And it was just to be me. And so I wake up every day, and I say a prayer every morning. My faith has been a big part of this journey for me. And my prayer every day is that God will just help me be me, which I know is who He created me to be. And so that's my goal every day. And it's really that simple for me at this point.
Beautiful, man. That's absolutely beautiful. Now, you also mentioned previously, obviously, you said you were also stuck in business too, and there were some issues there. How have those changed and evolved for you?
Oh, wow. I thought way too much of myself, obviously. So I had a business, several businesses in total, about 100 employees. And one of those businesses, a financial company that went through a tremendous growth spurt. And then through my rut, it really flattened out. It was still doing good, still leader in its industry, but it really flattened out, and that really bothered me. And the more it did, the more I dug in and worked. The more I hustled, the more I grinded, the more I felt like nobody else could do it but me. If I wasn't there, it wouldn't get done. All those things that so many of us entrepreneurs and businessmen feel like, right? And so when I got back from the reset, I decided that I was, and some of the things I was trying to do, I really wasn't good at. And I kind of knew that, but I guess I didn't admit it to myself really well. And so I got back, and it's so weird how when you get your head straight, things just happen. And, over time, it was just like the right people popped into my life. I stepped down as the CEO, the executive chairman. The young man I have that's the CEO now is so much better than I am. And my business has seen the most extraordinary growth it's ever seen. And I really don't have any day-to-day responsibilities. I mean, I do a lot of things, and I look at, vision and corporate, potential mergers, acquisitions, things like that. But I'm not involved at all in the day-to-day grind, so to speak, of the business. And the business is so much better off since I stepped away from that. And I didn't have the ability to do that before, because I felt like if I stepped away, it would fall. And if it fell, then everything else fell with it, was my fear, right? So every day, my life was driven by fear. And it was really fear of failure, I think, was the deep root of it. And I figured out two things, I guess. I figured out, I learned a ton of things through the program, but two things that I really, I guess if you could like pour out two antidotes to my problems that I really learned and grasped and still try to focus on every day, it's vulnerability and gratitude.
Mm. Yeah.
And, you know, learning to be vulnerable and just real and honest and myself and admit my faults and let other people do my work and, you know, and just be vulnerable at home with my wife, with my kids, you know, with my wife, whether it's in conversation or whether it's in bed or whatever it is, just opening up, being me and being vulnerable has been a huge focus of mine that's changed my life. And then the other thing is gratitude. I wake up every day and think about, sometimes I write it down, sometimes I don't, but that's part of my morning routine is to sit and think about really specific things in my life that I'm grateful for. And it's really hard to be, to kind of get down in it after you've sat and thought about how amazing the people and relationships and things you have in your life are.
And they're both great things. And one of the things when it comes to vulnerability, I think we think about it almost as a weakness. I mean, I know we know, consciously it's not, but we think about it subconsciously as a weakness, and it's the scariest thing, right? And what's more manly than doing the scariest thing? looking in the eye of the storm and stepping in anyway, and showing people like, hey, this is the real me.
Yeah.
Because when you got, at least for me, Matt, I'm telling you, it might be different for you. When I started business really young as an entrepreneur, started businesses my early 20s, and I always thought I had to put on this persona. But when people didn't like the persona version of me, it didn't matter to me because it wasn't really me, right? They don't like that version of Doug, so that's okay. I can live with that because it's not really who I am. So it's almost like a protective layer I put on going through there.
I think we all do. It's like we try to put it on like armor, you know, and you got to take that armor off. And, you know, as you said, I think I'd always looked at vulnerability as weakness, but vulnerability is power. And I actually have what's that app, Think Up or something, where you can talk your own voice and meditate to it. I have one of those saved in my phone that I listen to regularly, where I repeat over and over, vulnerability is power. No courageous act ever committed by any man was ever done without vulnerability. I mean, you think about it. Name me one person that's ever done anything courageous that vulnerability was not required.
Can't think of any.
There is none, right? If you want to be courageous and you want to be a man and you want to be powerful, you start with vulnerability. And that was a huge eye opener for me through this whole process that changed me.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting is, you know, I don't get on the calls with the guys. I've gone a couple of them in the past, but I get to hear some of the recordings of the guys that call up, and men will use the two excuses, right? In any business, right? What are they? Money and time, right? From joining a program like this. But it's not that for most of them, right? Everybody's got the time. That's BS. We'll just throw that one out. That's priorities. Financial, okay, I can kind of get it, but it's really they're scared, right? They're scared to ask for help. They're scared to raise their hand. They'll go a little bit, touch their toe in the water, but it takes just huge cojones to jump in and really go after it and go, you know what? I want to change. I want to be a better man, and I'm going to do it. Easy to be an armchair quarterback, as we say in the States.
It is. It's easy to be in the stands, but it's hard to be in the game, right?
You got it.
Even harder to be the MVP. I think taught me that.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Are you in the stands watching the game of your life? Are you on the bench waiting for someone to call you in your life? Are you on the field playing the game of life? And if you're on the field, you might as well be the friggin' MVP, right? That's right.
I came to the conclusion I wanted to be the MVP of my family, of my life, and that little talk you gave about that was a big part of that.
Awesome. Well, I'm truly honored just to be even part of that journey, and then just to get a chance to get to know you and become friends. You're an amazing man and that's the reason I talked to a guy. Did a call today with the guys in the Brotherhood. I recommend one of them reach out to you and just connect.
Love that. Yeah, I love talking to those guys and giving back, and I really love seeing those pictures. I know this week you guys had a reset. The pictures came out on the app, and I love seeing that smile on those guys' faces. And if you'll notice on my Zoom, my picture is me after the reset on the airplane home, just sitting on an airplane. But that smile is a smile I want to try to keep for the rest of my life. That freedom that I felt at that moment.
It's truly amazing. We joke about it and people don't get it. I mean, you do. People literally change color and have physiological changes. They lose like 10 years in their looks,
Yeah.
in a 4-day period. It's
Yeah.
all that baggage that we as men, especially, not that women don't, but we put this pressure on ourselves, which science has proved this. It manifests into physiological changes, and going through there. And one, obviously, I saw a couple at your reset. Another one is we were in Wales, and it was cloudy the whole time. And one of the guys came in that was very pale, like, I mean, whiter than me, which is hard to believe. Extremely pale. And by the end, he had a golden tan. And he looked at us and goes, "My wife is never going to believe I was here in Wales." Got a beach. What was the woman you were with? What beach were you at? But he had released so much stuff that was holding him back from living the life that he was, I won't even say destined to live, or that was available for him, that he changed the pigment of his skin, completely changed. And he was so much lighter. It's really, truly amazing.
I definitely felt like I looked different.
You did. I wasn't going to pick on you.
It's hard to tell, but I felt like I definitely looked different in my own eyes, for sure.
Yeah. You reverse age. You had a Benjamin Button experience. It was cool to see, and it's just, a lighter energy about you, as you maintained it too. And that's a question a lot of people ask is, okay, but is that a flash in the pan experience, or is that something you actually get to actually keep on?
It doesn't have to be. It certainly is something that you can maintain and keep on. And it doesn't happen without effort and consciousness, though, right? Like, I remember hearing it somewhere in one of these conversations, we sometimes we go unconscious about, kind of live unconsciously. And it's okay if we go unconscious 1,000 times a day, as long as we take back our consciousness 1,000 times a day, And for me, I went through kind of a high period when I got back, where I kept consciousness really well for a few days, a few weeks, and then I actually kind of took a little bit of where I had to be more aware and more thoughtful, exercising, doing my exercises, and I went through a period like that for, I don't know, a few months. And then that became routine for me. And, I've done really well. And I will say recently, with my role change at my job, I've went through a period where my routines have changed. My hours have changed, and I have less to do on a daily basis. And I've found myself, recently wanting to go back and do more of the kind of ramp up the routines again, because I have more free time on my hands. And for me, my mind goes really fast all the time, and free time is okay to an extent, but I can overdo it if I'm not careful. So I've been, finding ways recently to fill that free time with, either just getting out in nature more and doing things for myself, or meeting with guys, talking to guys, doing this podcast, whatever it may be, to, reading more. I'm not a big, huge reader, but I've been reading a little more just here in the last week or two than I was before, because I found myself a little bored. So I think as a man, you can go too far in either direction, right? You can be a workaholic, which I've been there, done that. But you can also, if you're not careful, because I think we do have this provider and working instinct in us. complete autonomy of not rely, which is kind of where I'm at in life today, where I don't really have to do anything. It's not all it's cracked up to be. You got to be careful with it. That's what I'm learning. Even just here lately is, it's important that a man feels like every day he accomplishes things. Mm-hmm. And for me, I'm learning right now how to accomplish things that aren't business related, and feel like, in business, we always talk about winning. Everything we do is about winning. At my business, like, yeah, we got a big win there. We're going to win this. We're going to, all of a sudden I found myself still getting some of those wins because I'm still the controlling owner of the business. I'm still the primary owner, but yet I'm not there every day to experience all of those wins. I don't even have an office there anymore, inside the building anymore. And so I'm having to find other ways to get wins and other ways to get myself excited and feel like a winner, right? Because I think it's important that we go through every day feeling accomplished. And there's a lot of different ways to do that. So that's kind of where I'm at in my life right now, is trying to discover new ways to feel accomplished that don't necessarily involve money and business.
And it's a place where most men want to be. And you and I will have a conversation about that a little bit more in depth later, as you know, and going over it. Well, Matt, I just want to thank you for being here and sharing a little bit of your story. And guys, if you resonate with any of this, I mean, Matt's just a great guy to connect with in general, and has really stepped up. And I think, if anything, guys, one thing that I would recommend taking away from this is, you have someone here is courage and vulnerability, right? That is such a great point, that it's courageous to step up and be vulnerable. It's courageous to be the leader of your family and showcase. And really what you've done, Matt, is led from the front, right? You've led from the front, showing your children, your wife, and everybody around you without saying it and doing a lot of talking about what you're going to do, what you're not going to do anymore. You just did. And that's something that I think every man can respect.
And it was the hardest thing I've ever done in many ways, to be vulnerable and to step up and lead from the front was really difficult for me. I could lead really well at work, but to lead the people I love the most was difficult for me. It's still difficult for me at times. Which I've always, a little bit confusing of why that's that way, but I found that I'm not the only guy that's that way. I used to feel like I was the only person that felt that way, but it takes a huge amount of courage to step up and be the man, and what I found is, though, that's what your family wants. And when you do that, they follow. And I've got 2 great kids, a great wife, and I'm just so blessed that my imperfections through that particular period of time, did not affect me long term, as far as my relationships and in my life and my wife and kids. So super blessed. Thank you guys for everything you did to help me through that.
You do the work, man. We're just there. We're the guys. We just opened the door for you. Well, gentlemen, as always, we're wrapping up another edition of the Powerful Man Show. As always, if you want to learn more, grab a free training, just go over to thepowerfulman.com/bonus. You can pick up a free training there. And if we're lucky enough, I'm going to see if we get Matt back on for another show and talk about something different, talk about another subject, and Matt can impart some of his wisdom as well. So, gentlemen, have an amazing day and take some action.